Okay, we're on the air, I think.
Yes, we are indeed. Welcome, everybody, to Saturdays with Tara. I'm Mary Beth. You are at the Law of Attraction Club on the web at theloaclub.com. If you would like to make a question or a comment, remember to unmute yourself if you're on the live broadcast here, and otherwise you can type your question in on the group chat to the right of your screen. All right. Over to you, Robin. Robin will be bringing through Tara for us this morning. So welcome to Robin and Tara, or welcome to Tara and Robin.
Well, actually, it's Robin first. So if you're on the on the broadcast version, you need to click Q&A to get to your Q&A screen. So.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Welcome. It is with great pleasure that we intersect with you here in these little interactions that we have, and we have set the topic for this coming week here, to be the fundamental nature of things. And we've talked about the fundamentals or the absolutes a lot, but there has been some discussion recently among a number of circles about the true nature of the law of attraction. And so we thought we would start with that somewhat attention-getting statement that there is actually no law of attraction. And what do we mean by that? And we'll go into that. But there's been a growing, if you like, concern about describing all of this as the law of attraction, and yet it is so embedded now in everything that we are doing. The name of this community is the law of attraction. Is it not? And it comes to mean something to many of you, but it is at its core something very fundamental that is probably, it surpasses the words law of attraction, and that is what we'll be talking about today. And let's face it, as soon as we start describing to you what's going on with you and your world, we get into approximations. When we talk of absolutes and laws, we are using words to convey to you as best we can a foundational understanding of your non-physical and infinite nature. And of course, each of you receives these words in your own way. Some of you are not much concerned with the logic of it all, and that is fine. There's no reason that you should be necessarily. Some of you are curious and you seek a deeper understanding of the way it all works. And we applaud your curiosity. There is no right or wrong way, of course, of approaching all of this. It is just your way. So for those seeking to get to the end result, joyful creation, leaping to the last page of the book, all you need to remember, of course, is to always reach for that better feeling thought. And you will fully experience this game as you intended. And we say, if that is your situation, play on. For those of you wanting to put the puzzle pieces together, as we said, we welcome your curiosity and we'll do our best to journey with you to the place of knowing who you are. Today we will get into some words and descriptions and a longer discussion about all of that. And then we will wend our way back to the bottom line, how to use this knowledge to step into a new version of you and your world. What we are about to describe here is the essential nature of everything, everything with a capital E. Upon that foundational structure, as we have called it, all stories are built. We do it, we have our story. You do it, you have your story. You all individually have chosen a unique story about you and your physical and non-physical worlds. Now you may say, for those of you living life on Earth here, that there's a lot that is similar about your stories, and we would agree with that. And yet there is a lot that is dissimilar also, that you perhaps do not see so easily. But it is true that you have your own. It is your reality. And if there are things within your story that seem to be at odds with these fundamentals we are about to describe, that, of course, is okay. There are no right or wrong choices, just what feels good or doesn't. So in all of this, in all of life, in all that you encounter, no matter who or what is talking with you and communicating with you, take what feels good, because nothing is more important than that. Nothing is more important than feeling good. And leave the rest. Just remember, choice, as you say, as we say, is your middle name. New choices are always possible. And we're going to talk today also about that business of choice, because choice is also a fundamental part of who you are. And let us say up front here something that needs to be said here. It is not a 5-year course to get to an understanding of who you are and why you're here. It is not rocket science, as they say. It is not complex. It is elegantly simple. There is not one of you that is incapable of comprehending these concepts. And we want you to understand that. There's been a lot of discussion from this one and many others about, are we capable of seeing the truth of all that is from this perspective? And the answer is, you may have some difficulty with getting your mind around some of these ideas, but you can get to the truth, the fundamental truth of who you are, and that is what we're going to be talking about here. The difficulty most of you have in getting your minds around it is not that there is so much to learn. It is that there is so much to unlearn. By that we mean you are so caught up in this earthly game that when you try to visualize all that is, or God, or the universe, or the collective consciousness, and your relationship to it, you are stuck in space-time thinking. In non-physical, there is no space and time. In all that is, there is no place. There are no shapes and dimensions. There are no boundaries, levels, or hierarchies. There is no geometry or numbers like 3 of this and 9 of that. There is nothing negative. There is only something you might describe as energy. This is where you came from. This is where you came into being. As you first had an intention, so you formed yourself out of this swirl of energy. Then you made choices and you formed some more, and so it went on until here you are, playing this game. And even as our intentions create us, your intentions created you, and they create you now. Here you are in your story. And let us take a little time out here. And we want you to journey with us back to the time when you first came into being. If you like, we're going to draw a parallel between yourself and the birth process. So back at the point, the equivalent point, if you like, of conception. Back at the point when you were part of all that is. Let us start from there.
Joanne, I don't know if you can hear me, but you muted Robin. If you can hear me.
I can hear you, and thanks for piping in, because I thought maybe I dropped the call somehow.
No, Joanne muted Robin, so...
He's unmuted himself.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So, fun with this technology, is it not? So let us take you back to the place when you first came into being, if you like, your conception. And here you are, part of all that is, not yet feeling yourself to be individual, but just sensing that you are in this huge all that is. And then you have an intention. You'd like to try something. You'd like to experience something. And you make a choice about that. And for the first time, and we're going to use time here, even though there is no time, for the first time you experience what it's like to have some sense of being individual and experiencing other parts of all that is as something different from you. And can you see that as you make that choice, that you start to experience things differently? And part of that experience is that you are now in a context. And it's too soon in this birth process, this creation process here, to call it a place, but you have a context. And the context is created by that first choice you made. I want to try this. I want to be this. I want to experience this. And can you then see you have an experience and you make new choices, and you have more experience as you make new choices. And at some point you make the choice to say, I am going to narrow my focus, my consciousness down to that single point. It is like you have been running around the galaxy in your spaceship and suddenly you decide to play chess. And you focus down to that two-dimensional board and you give that your undivided attention. And so here you are. You decide to focus your consciousness, not yet into a world, but to focus your consciousness down to one thing at a time, to a very narrow point. And things start to form and you make new choices. And can you see that the context that you find yourself in goes along with those choices? And then through a million choices and a million more choices, here you are. You are Robin and Mary Beth living in California. You are Giora living in New York. You have narrowed it down and narrowed it down, and as you made those choices, the world formed around you. We want you to get a sense of the fact that that world in which you find yourself, the context in which you are having these experiences, is fundamentally a function of those choices, even as you are. The physical you and the story about you as a physical person is part of that story. And even as you physically are a part of that story, so is everything around you part of that story. So can you get a sense that it's you that's doing this? Can you get a sense that it's your story and your world? So let us move on here. We and others have described what is absolute or fundamental in terms of 2, 3, or 4 principles, and we have used those numbers ourselves at different times. And of course, contained in these is what we have always called the law of attraction. Of course, the good thing about describing it in these components is that we take a stepped approach to the concepts as a way of making them easier to understand. The less good news is that some then take these as separate pieces. And if they do not really understand the law of attraction, the tendency is to start to talk about other laws. And very soon the laws become meaningless. And part of the research this one did this week, part of the background to all of this, was he went looking for what people describe as fundamental laws. And of course, there are many different versions of that. Some have 3, some have 4, some have 7. 7 or 8 seems to be a very popular number. One had 60. And some of those have the law of attraction included, either directly or derivations of it, and some make no reference to the law of attraction at all. And so here we are, stuck with this term, law of attraction. And of course that term has come to mean something to many of you. It's the name of this community, and there's no doubt we'll continue to talk about the law of attraction because of that established understanding of what we're talking about. And we will do so here in our intersections with you. But there really is no law in the sense that these other laws are being spoken of. The truth of it is much simpler than that. Even what we have called those 2 or 3 absolutes are really only one. It's all to do with the inherent nature of what you are, a consciousness. So let us call this the nature of everything. You are an individual part of the consciousness of all that is, or God, or the universe, or whatever name you choose to give it. You are created by your intentions, desires, and choices. That individual you always inherently exists in, if you like, creates a realm of matching vibrational intersections. In other words, you choose beliefs and expectations, and you and your world reform, regroup, recreate yourself to match those expectations. You make a choice, and the world wraps around you in a matching version of that choice. And we want you to know that when we use the word individual, we do not mean anything about disconnection or separateness, because there is none of that. When we use the word intentions, we do not imply something static. Everything is dynamic, intentions change, choices are made, choice defines you. When we use the word always, we mean timeless. When we use the word matching, we are saying everything you need to know about the law of attraction. You see, it is just a part of this fundamental nature of who you are. And so, that's it. That's the nature of us and our world. It's the nature of you and your world. The act of creating you also creates your world around you. One cannot exist without the other. You cannot exist separate from the rest of all that is. Neither can you, by definition, exist without the context that you are creating around you. So, we promised that you'll be able to comprehend all of this, and you can. But if it seems right now a little elusive, a bit too much to get your mind around, just stay with these words for a while and let yourself begin to embrace it, to understand it, to get the concepts. This fluid creative process we are describing is you and the matching world around you. You and choice and desire and intention and that world of yours are inseparable. So having said all that, what does it mean in the context of creating more of what you want? Simply this: there is never time that you cannot choose what to think or think about. You are always at choice about all things. You are so free you can choose limitation, or at least the illusion and experience of limitation. Of course, there is no right or wrong choice. There are just choices that feel good and those that do not. We encourage you to choose those which feel good. You came here for that reason, to experience what it's like to create in this context, where your consciousness is narrowed down to this single point of focus. You have left your spaceship and you are playing chess. Your ultimate joy lies not only in creating new things, but in knowing that you did, doing it consciously, and that you can go on creating things consciously. It's all about the version of the world you are choosing. You are choosing you and your world. And as we said this week through Rachel, you are not a tiny speck in a huge world. You are the creator of everything you experience. Choose a new belief and you step into a new version of you. That new version comes with its own context. It is, if you like, a collage of intersections with the matching worlds of others, but it is your world, unique to you. Thoughts become things, things that match meet. If you want 7 simple words to sum all of this up, there they are. And we want you to understand that, as we said at the start, it is not important that you get into all of this if it is not your desire to do so. But many of you, as you wander through this experience you are having, you come up against things and you have questions. And you say, how can that be? Or you do not understand what is going on. And then we say there is some advantage in having this background, this context here, this understanding of who it is that you are and what it is that you are in. Because once you understand this at the level of detail, at the level of the concept, if shall we say, of all of this, then you can answer any question. There is no situation you will find yourself in that you cannot say, I see what's going on here. I see what I'm creating, and I see how I'm creating it. I'm not going to go back to the detail of why and what mistake did I make to create this, but I do want to be clear about where I want to go from now. Where do I want to step now? What do I want to do next? So, what to do with all of this? First, be clear about what you want to include. And that sounds like such a fundamental, simple thing that it seems hardly worth saying. And yet it is very worth saying. Because we see a lot of you not being clear about that which you want. You have, if you like, forgotten who you are to the extent that the game has mesmerized you and you get caught up in it, and you have narrowed down the boundaries of what is possible, and you are living within those tight boundaries, and you've forgotten to dream. We want you to get out of that box. We want you to step beyond that. We want you to understand once again that the world is your oyster, the galaxy is your oyster, the universe is your oyster. You can have it any way you want. So be clear, first of all, what you want to include. And then step into that version of you and the context that will wrap around you by doing the following. Each day, commit to spend some time engaged in thinking about those things. What do you want to include in this movie called Your Life on Earth? Spend time thinking about those. Each day, spend some time in appreciation. Because when you get into appreciation mode, you are in that flowing place. And it matters not what you choose to appreciate. You can appreciate the mundane things that are around you right now that support you in this game you're in. You can appreciate the esoteric magnificence of who you are and everything in between. And you can never exhaust the subjects on which you can spend your time there in appreciation. But each day, appreciate. And each day, Wake up expecting miracles. Allow yourself to think, what delights are in store for me today? By the very act of waking up and creating the world around you, which you do, is a miracle enough indeed. But then there are other things that you would perhaps call miracles, a little less in the ordinary flow of things. Those things that are delightful and unexpected and wonderful, and you can create those. You see, that is what you're here for. And so, with these few words, we have, if you like, not attempted to destroy the concept of the law of attraction, but to put it in its rightful perspective here, to have you see that it is not simply an external appendage to everything else that is somehow artificially created or only on a par with many other things that people might choose to regard as cosmic laws. It is underneath all of it. It is underneath everything. It is a part of who you are. And the very act of you creating yourself by intention creates the context around you. And it is always going to be a context that matches your choices, even as you, as a person, as a thinking unit, are created by that. And so,
may I read you a question?
You may indeed.
All right. So we have a question from Jim, a couple questions from Jim. First, he starts off with, the non-physical says we will never get it all done. How then in the physical do we, quote, take actions in a hierarchical order that yields our greatest success? In other words, prioritizing our passions. Now, I don't know if you want to do that piece first and then go into the rest. You want to do that a little bit? You've already really covered that, but would you like to?
Perhaps give us the rest of the question and we will see if we can win our way through this.
All right. My former landlord recently retained deposit money unlawfully. I have a strong case in my favor. He has become a scoundrel of sorts over time. Landlord, after much soul searching, I have chosen to let the issue go for the greater good. I feel I want to write him a letter to clear the air and let go. What is the highest vibration I can come from in my letter to complete the issues?
Well, the answer to both of those, of course, is the same, is it not? But let us tackle the second as an example of the first, and then we will come back and see if we need to add some more.
Good, thank you.
So, you see, what you have created is a version of reality, and you have set all this up as a function of your choices. And if you were seeing this as one world, and this person out there, this landlord, and this government, and these laws, and all of these things, you see them as a fixture, and you are dealing with them and sorting your way out how you might deal with all of these things in the most spiritual and self-enlightened way. That is, we could answer you at one level on that in those terms. And you have already indicated in your question some of the things that you might do. But we would encourage you to step back from that a little bit, to give yourself a view of this playing field that you are on. So see yourself in the stands, Jim, at the same time here as you are seeing yourself on the field. So sit back in the stands for a minute and see what it is that's going on here. And you see you are in your world. And there's a version of your world, of you and your world, in which the landlord is the most affable and easy to get on person that you can imagine. There's a version of your world in which you are not in a rented apartment, but in your own. There's a version of you, an infinite number of versions of you in different versions of this story. And every time you make a new choice, you step into a new version of the world. It looks like one solid, continuous world. That's the miracle of it, if you will. but really it is it's a matching world to you. And you invite into that world by your beliefs and desires the matching versions of everybody else. And so if there's an ornery landlord in your world, Jim, then you have invited them in. They are a match to you. You believe in the existence of them. You expect that sometimes landlords will do this. And by virtue of your expectation of them, they will. And so here you are. Are you seeking an earthly solution to this? And it matters not what you choose to do. You can choose to do nothing. You can choose to write letters. You can choose to go and knock on his door. You can choose to call him. You can choose him or her. You can choose to do whatever you will. But ultimately, it is within you that you are creating it all. So let us talk about what you can do. Since nothing in your past has any power to create really in your present and your future, except that which you give it the power to do by expecting that from A follows B. You say, from this action, then I need to do this. If the landlord does this, then I need to respond with this. But the reason the landlord did all that, has done all that, you see, once again, is part of what you have expected. Not necessarily the detail of it, but you acknowledge the possibility that landlords sometimes do this, sometimes they do that, sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad, sometimes they are careless, sometimes they are careful. You have all these boundaries around what landlords can be, and what version of the landlord shows up in your world at any point is going to be a match to how you are right now. You say, well, I don't consciously know of creating this version of the landlord. And we would say to you, it doesn't matter. You are not the one exception to the law of attraction. You are not one exception to what we have been describing here as the fundamental nature of who you are. The world around you is the matching version. It is a mirror to you, you see. It is your traveling companion, and it always matches. So fundamentally, what you are seeking to do here is to create a better version of this world. Now, as an act of will, can you choose to expect something different? And the answer is yes, you can, although that may be a little difficult because you've been practicing for so long that when this happens yesterday, I have to respond to it today. And we say what happened yesterday is as much a choice as what happens tomorrow is a choice. And what happens today is a choice. So you see the past as something fixed. I can surely vary my future because if I know about the law of attraction, then I can attract good things into my world. But the past surely is a fixture. And we say the past is no more of a fixture than the future. And the past has no power to create in your present except that which you give it by your expectations. And so can you choose to expect something different? Yes, you can. You can choose to expect that from this point on, the world will be a better place in this respect, in the respect to landlords, in respect to whatever else is out there that you would wish to change. And of course, then you are making those choices and you are making them consciously. That may, as we said, be too much of a leap. So let us give you perhaps an intermediate path here. Let us say that you can, if you wish, start to think of things in this way. You can start to see yourself as in a world that you are choosing. And if you cannot, if you like, erase the past of yesterday and see it as imposing on you, then allow yourself to start to see it a little differently, perhaps. What is possible here? Is it possible that this could happen? Is it possible that this could be? Is it possible that I can now do this? So just nibble away at the fringes of this a little. Allow yourself to get to see some things that are different. And as you see those things that are different, you can select them. You can choose to think about them. You can invite them into your reality and they will appear there. Because you're the one in charge. You're the one in charge entirely. You have made these choices, you see. You have made this choice to be in this world, in this game, and you are choosing the boundaries around you. You have made a belief choice about the nature of people. You've made a belief choice about the nature of landlords. You put that in your expectation tapestry, if you will. And all we're suggesting is that there's some threads in that tapestry which are there because you made choices that you can change. So you can tease apart, if you like, this tapestry in this place and say to yourself things like, I know in the past I've created this, but let me think about what I would like to ease into here. What would I like to ease into here? I would like to ease into a world of pleasantness, of joy, of ease. I would like this to be a place where things flow to me easily, where it's not upstream, where it's not contentious. And what would that world look like? What would that world feel like? So here you are, standing before your future. It's spread out before you, and you're about to make a choice to step into it. And allow yourself a little slack here. Allow yourself a little leeway here. Allow yourself to bend the rules a little here because they are yours to bend. Allow yourself to see a world in which things are a little different, a little easier, a little more flowing, a little more joyful. And if you can get to that place, of expecting things to be different, then can you see it doesn't matter what you do? You can write to the landlord and set things straight. But even that is unnecessary. But if it feels good to do that, do it. The only rule should be what feels good. The only rule for you and how you see the world is, what do I want? What do I want to include? Not what I want to exclude. So many times when we ask of you, what is it that you want? You begin with what you don't want. Well, I want a world that's less like this. I want world peace. But what you say when you want world peace is your mind goes to, I want less war. I want this, I want that. But when you say, I want that, you are thinking of what you do not want. So that's why we say to you, we encourage you to use the words, what do I want to include? And forget what you want to exclude. What would you want to be in the world looking like? What do you want the world to look like when you are in it? What do you want landlords to look like in it? For as long as you dwell upon the inequity of this situation, this rotten scoundrel has done this, then you are bringing more of that into your pie. A lot of people talk of forgiveness. And what are you doing if you forgive somebody? Well, there are some aspects of this which are good. But what you're essentially doing when you say you are forgiving somebody is you are deciding not to hold it against them in future. You are deciding not to say that this person is essentially bad, but you are remembering it. And as long as you remember it, you're remembering that this person was bad but isn't, was bad but isn't, and of course you are mixed and all over the place with that, are you not? We say, forget it. Imagine a new world. Imagine a new landlord. Step into that world in a different way, in a different place, with a different thought. And as you do, the world will change. We promise you. It will not be the same world you came from. It cannot be the same world because you are creating your world moment by moment. When you woke up this morning, how much energy and attention did you give to creating the world around you? Because we promise you, you did. How much energy, focus, and attention did you put into creating the bed and the walls and the floor and gravity and time? And the answer is none. It was there. Why was it there? And how is it there? It's there because you knew it would be. You expected it. It was beyond question. Everything that is beyond question in your expectation set appears in your world. Everything that is impossible in your expectation set does not appear in your world. And everything in between is determined by what you said as the probabilities and possibilities. You are the one creating it all, moment by moment, second by second. And when you grasp the enormity of that, then you can see that the past has no power whatsoever to create in your now. It is you, the one, that has the power to create in your now. And so, do you want to deal with this world as if it's one world and the past is a flowing thing and you are in it and struggling with it and doing the best you can to survive and be happy in the best way that you can? Of course you can do that. That is your choice. We would have you step back from that. As we said, get into the stands and watch the game from there for a little, as well as being on the field. See yourself for who you are, this powerful creator that you are. And can you feel the power of that? That is a place of fun and freedom, of peace and power, of connection and connectedness. And when you get to that place, you will find that a lot of what you are asking here is irrelevant. You see, because you are saying, how can I change that which I have already created? And we say, you don't have to worry about changing it. You're creating it fresh second by second. You just choose now what do you want to step into. And as you do, the world wraps itself around you. You think your expectations of reality are governed by your experience, by what you have learned of reality. But it is the other way around. It is your expectations of reality that decide what it is that it looks like and feels like.
Say that again, Tara, please. That was important.
It is not that your expectations come from discovering things about your world. Your scientists are not discovering things about your world. In your world, these scientists are simply filling in some of the details in a world that you've already created. It is not that your expectations need to be based upon what your so-called experience of reality is. It is reality that comes from your expectations. We use the example, how old were you when you chose to believe the world was flat or round? And you say, well, I didn't choose to believe it was round. I learned that from somebody who taught me that, who showed me that. And we say, no, you heard that from something or somewhere, and you said, that sounds right, I'm going to believe that, and you did. And from that point forward, you are in a flat world or a round world. This one is in a round world. Perhaps you are also in a round world.
So if you use the example that Jim gave, where he said his landlord has become a scoundrel of sorts over time, that's the same kind of idea. Can you use that example to help him clarify a little bit better?
Certainly. So this landlord has degenerated into a scoundrel over time here. And can you see, Jim, that it is not something external to you? That you have started off with some idea of what this landlord is, and that is most basic before you even met him or had anything to do with him or her, let's still call it him for simplicity, then you knew that he was human and had certain characteristics, and that's the world you've defined. And then as you move down the track, you have experiences, and those experiences are always going to be a match to you. And you can say, but how did I create this scoundrel version of this landlord? And we say, well, by worrying about things, by perhaps fearing about things, by hearing a story and choosing to believe it, and so on and so on. It matters not really what you chose. What matters to you right now is What do I want from this point forward? You see, you don't have to go back and analyze the reasons why you made those choices. All you need to know is you want to choose differently. And that is the essential message here. Choose differently. And how do you choose that? By starting to see things as different. Starting to recognize that it was your choice that formed this landlord. You created him out of all possibilities for landlords. And now you are dealing with him. And we say, you are dealing with your creation. Would it not be easier to recreate something new? And we say, it is. If it seems impossible, then we say, as we said before, start around the fringes of it. Start with the slightly better versions. Can I do this? Can I expect this? Can I expect this? And when you've got to that place, then if you will, write your letter. You may find it unnecessary. But we promise you, if you write your letter to that new landlord in that new context, it will be a very different letter. Because you will recognize that this landlord is a mirror, in a sense. This landlord is your creation. And so you are talking to yourself. And it's a little stark, but it is absolutely true. It is a little mind-wrenching sometimes to understand that and to get to the place of seeing that. But it is true. It is the truth of who you are. Thoughts become things, and things which match meet.
Those beliefs become expectations.
And beliefs become expectations, right. It often starts with hope. Let's say you are stuck in this train of events and you can't see your way out of it in any easy fashion, be it whatever it is for all of you. Start with a little hope. Start with the knowledge that this might be able to be changed. Hope. And once you've reached that doorway, then you can reach the doorway of choosing to believe that it can. And once you reach that doorway, you can get to the doorway of knowing, the certainty of it. And once you've reached that doorway, you have stepped into manifestation. Because at the point when you know with certainty, without question, that something is, it is. When you woke up this morning, you knew without a doubt that you would be in a bed in a world of time and space, and you were. That is your miracle working. And we use the word miracle here, of course, because it is meant to imply that you do something extraordinary or encounter something extraordinary. And we say your everyday existence is extraordinary. The fact that you create your world second by second is extraordinary. But understand the power that you have. And once you have reached some glimmer of understanding of that, the way in which you approach the world, the way in which you approach your landlord, will forever be different.
Great answer. Wonderful, wonderfully woven answer. Yora, go ahead. We have a few more minutes here.
You thought that I unmuted. So from this fundamental way of seeing everything so simply, how would you describe going downstream, going with the flow?
Well, it is a metaphor, if you will, for a life of ease, is it not? Yes. The difference being, if you are rowing a boat and you have to row upstream, you have to row awfully hard to get anywhere. And if you are floating downstream, you don't have to row at all. You come to whatever you want. We would say to you, of course, that upstream there's nothing that you want. Even though it looks like that thing you want is upstream, it is not. It is all downstream. There is nothing upstream that you want. And so it is, if you like, you're allowing yourself to recognize that you are the creator of it all. That is the first step. And the second is, What do I want to include? Spending time there, as we said. And as you do that, and then you expect things to show up that match that, they will. And that is, if you like, what we call flowing downstream. There's no struggle involved with that. There's no rowing hard against the current involved with any of that. You can throw the oars overboard and allow yourself to go down. And on the banks of that stream that you are flowing down is everything that you ever wanted and more.
Okay, I understand. It's like a little kid before he starts to believe in too much nonsense. if the kid wants something, he just imagines it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
You have learned, if you like, far too much about your world, you see. We want you to unlearn a bit of it.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to talk you out of the game, as you know, Gyura. We applaud you for being in this game. It is that you're on the leading edge of creation. You are in this very special place where you're focused down. You're on this chessboard, if you will, and it is intense and wonderful and joyful, and you encounter great things. You eat chocolate chip ice cream. You experience things in ways that are just a delight. And above all, we want to encourage you back into the awareness that all of this is yours for the having and more, with ease and with downstream flow.
Okay.
I have a quick follow-up question.
Go for it.
Is it possible to be flowing downstream and feel frustrated? Because I get a sense that, from what you're saying is there's always going to be things we create in the world that are challenges for us, but to see those challenges in a good light. So is frustration and happiness two ends of the stick that can't occur at the same time, or is there something about flowing downstream that you can be frustrated and angry and still be going downstream?
Well, your words at the same time are the operative words, are they not? In other words, if you are frustrated, you are frustrated. That is not so bad on the negative scale. It's a little bit beneath that which you'd like. It's not anger. It's not desperation. It is just a little negative. And as long as you're a little negative, then you are not flowing downstream.
You're either pinched off or you're feeling good.
Yes.
Period. Doesn't matter the levels of it.
Yes. And so if you are a little frustrated, you could say only for a short time, and we would encourage that. Only for a short time. Notice that. Be in the stands. Say, I feel this. Where do I go from here? Can I dwell on what's frustrating me? Can I choose to write a letter to the landlord explaining how wrong he is? Or do I settle down to what I want? Can I settle into the place of beingness that is the world I want to be in? And we would recommend the latter.
Thanks. That was good.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and comments. It's been a wonderful weaving here. So it's time to wrap up here, Tara. If you have some words.
Yes, well, we would wrap up with 7 words, perhaps. Thoughts become things. And things that match meet. And in those few words, we have summed up everything that you need to know about yourself and the law of attraction. We encourage you to understand the nature of who you are. We are always here to answer your questions. We enjoy these interactions immensely. And for now, we are complete.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Robin. And thank you, everybody, for coming. This has been a wonderful call.
Hey, good. So thanks, everybody. And I echo what Mary Beth says. It's fun. These calls are as much fun for we who are channeling as it is for Tara, and as it is for you. It's a wonderful process. So we enjoy being with you, and I'm certainly enjoying this experience. So thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye for now.